Welcome and thank you all for holding. At this time, all parties will be in a listen-only mode until the question and answer portion of today's conference. The call is being recorded. If anyone has an objection, you may disconnect your line at this time. Today's conference is being recorded. If anyone has an objection, you may disconnect your line. I would now like to turn the call over to Peter Silva. Thank you, sir. You may begin.
Hey, thank you. So good morning, good afternoon, and aloha to everyone joining us today. I'm Peter Silva. I'm a Technical Marketing Manager with F5, and I also have Jonathan George with me today. He's a Product Marketing Manager with F5. We both cover security, and today we're going to present Secure Application Access with our BIG-IP version 11. Let's dig right in. So over the decades, data centers started simple, but as more and more siloed services were implemented, application and security infrastructure issues have been a major factor in businesses' inability to adequately scale and protect themselves. And so in the traditional IT model, resources, users, and access methods were controlled by IT, of course. Relationships among users, applications, and that data was static and tightly bound, and even, applications were written with specific display layouts in mind. And so as more remote and then mobile users were added, and then even partners, contractors, and guests, and as IT started to be, distributed globally, that traditional model broke down. And so in today's complex IT security world, it's not enough for an organization to simply know who is accessing their data and applications. So organizations must know what device, what type of network, which resources they are requesting. And it's also critical to know, obviously, that the requested servers, networks, and applications are available. And so the static data center with a static security infrastructure is really unable to adequately handle the challenges of today's current IT reality. And so you can see everything is now all bunched together in the static data center. And this is something actually Bruce Schneider, an old-time security expert, said probably 15 years ago: complexity is the enemy of good security. A lot of times we might give up security for a little bit of convenience. That's sort of how we are as humans. And so we'll talk a lot about the dynamic data center. And so today, IT departments require control points that can adapt dynamically and secure content and applications as they're delivered from a variety of locations to a multitude of users. And so this is especially true with a global infrastructure that can span clouds and data centers. You got many movers are on the move all around the world, and they're accessing applications and content that may be on the move as well. And so we're not always just going to that static data center. There may be instances where those applications, that data, those resources might be being delivered from the cloud or going back and forth from the cloud to the data center or from the data center to the cloud for bursting, for geolocation, and other things to deal with delivering your applications globally. And so when you move that, a central policy control point is critical to managing these environments. When a control point is decentralized, IT has a limited control over the flow of data. There's no contextual information, and contextual information, when we say that, it means all the various pieces that can come into play to then make an intelligent decision on what and where and how to deliver. And so context is things like, username or your group or the type of network you're coming from, the type of device that you're using. All those sorts of things come into play when requesting applications. And it's that strategic control point that will make those intelligent decisions on how to then best deliver. Now, if you think of the flow of anything, water, cars, electricity, commerce, there are always these strategic points of control where all of these various flows come together, they coalesce for redistribution, for security, for traffic management. You can think of a stop sign on a two-lane highway. I mean, that's a strategic control point. It could even be complex, like a electrical system or a cooling system in a huge high-rise. But everything comes to a central point for those particular services, and that's kind of what we see. Not kind of, that's where the big IP devices sit in these dynamic data centers, is in that strategic point of control to make those intelligent decisions based on the contextual information coming in at the time of the request. And so an F5-powered dynamic data center, this means IT can manage the network as a pool of reusable resources that can be configured and reconfigured dynamically. And so the first two issues for application delivery is, how do I make sure the application is always available and also plan for growth? In the past, you could do this with a simple load balancer. Just spread the traffic among several servers, and voila, you're done. But as the applications get more complex, the method of load balancing also has to keep up. And that, a lot of that stuff has to do with the context and making those decisions. The closest data center might not always be the best to then deliver content from. And if you're just looking, you can't just look at spreading the traffic around. The load balancer, the application delivery controller, needs to actually understand the application itself, the application logic, to distribute the traffic appropriately. And I know many of you are customers and probably have LTM sitting in your environment. I don't know how many builds are on this slide. And so LTM obviously does provide that, ensures the best resources are always available, provides dynamic load balancing method, application health monitoring. It knows even before the user requests a particular resource whether or not that application is responding, whether or not that application is available, and if it's not, and the request comes into that specific data center, it can immediately know, okay, well, we got to send them to this other data center because that's where the resources are responding. Okay, I got one more build on there. Oh, I'm going backwards. I'm sorry, folks. When you're delivering application, you always have to worry about security. And again, you have a few options there. You can modify the application, write security into the application itself, have a particular tier of proxy servers to authenticate these users. But you can use all of these various point solutions, or you can use your application delivery controller as a strategic point of control to not only secure your applications, but also your data. You might not realize this, but BIG-IPLTM, it is an application delivery controller, but it is well suited to be a network firewall because out of the box, it provides a number of security features, specifically and particularly to both the network layer and the application layer. Proxying the application, cloaking the resources. Oftentimes, the riffraff out there, the hackers, target their applications and target the methods that they want to breach that application just based on the fact of what is it running, what is the OS, what is the platform, and just simply being able to cloak that information oftentimes makes it a little bit more difficult for riffraff to then gain access because they got to try more attempts and various methods to get in versus knowing exactly oh, it's Apache, let's start firing off various Apache vulnerabilities. And then obviously things like compliance and protecting your data. That's a big issue in today's corporate environment is data protection, data integrity, data confidentiality. So I won't read this list again. Being customers, hopefully you've experienced at least one or all 6 of these benefits of LTM. The software and hardware that we've developed is specifically designed for traffic management. And TMOS, if you're unaware with TMOS, TMOS is F5's traffic management operating system. It's a universal shared product platform that's the foundation for our Big IP product line. It's a full proxy, and it's the only solution out there that can inspect and control the entire application conversation. And so this provides a solution that you and others allow you to act then based on the real-time context of the user, the network, and the application. And because all of the devices run that same base OS, you can see in the slide along the top there's access security, application security, DNS services. These are essentially modules or plugins that you can add to your existing infrastructure seamlessly because they all talk the same language, and you're then able to add these particular services, if you need them, to your current infrastructure, to your current deployment, including things like SSL offload and compression. SSL can beat on servers tremendously. The horsepower it takes to do the SSL transactions, we've seen a lot of situations where just by offloading the SSL from the servers and applications themselves frees up numerous resources for customers. So we have 3 of the 5, who, what, where, and a lot of times I like to add the when and the why. So this is all of that context that I was referring to initially on during the presentation. What applications? Who is it? What devices? Where do they want to go? There's this thing called, autonomous networks where you're allowed to just log in, username, password, and get access to an application. And a lot of times it'll capture your IP address and potentially maybe your MAC address, but it really doesn't tell exactly the identity of the user. You know, a lot of these decisions need to be made based on identity. And why I say or add the when and why, so for instance, there may be a time situation involved with the policy where contractors, partners have access to systems from 9 to 5, but then after 5 o'clock they try to log in. Now they can certainly gain access, they get authenticated, but they might not have access to their resources. They're a valid user, but you're coming in after the time that we've established to say you are allowed to see your resources. And so manage access based on identity. This allows you to then unify all of your access methods, whether it be remote access, whether it be wireless in the building, handing out the SSID password to all the guests, and they have 80 and port 443 outbound. So they do have access to the wireless. But as soon as somebody wants to gain access to internal resources or requests a particular application or resource on the inside, that's when you present them with an additional authentication, with an additional challenge to then gain access to those pieces on the back end. And then, of course, even NAC scenarios. NAC was that big thing 4 or 5 years ago, and it's kind of gone by the wayside somewhat. But the internal network is no longer the safe haven that it used to be. We see, hacks on the inside, and a lot of the retail hacks of the past couple of years is because that internal information wasn't encrypted. They were just watching that clear text information go by right on the internal network. And so it's not as safe as it used to be. So even protecting resources and access from the inside is critical. And so based on identity, and I talk about, there's image out there where a lot of movie stars, rock stars, they project an image of a persona, but that might not be their true identity. Our identity is who we are, where we come from, our family, what our greatest fears are, our best love, all those sorts of things that make us who we are as an individual is our identity. And I'm not saying, take a drop of blood to then ensure that they are who they say they are to then gain access. But it's a lot of that little stuff to take into consideration. So, Jonathan, you want to take it now from slide 10?
Sure. So here at F5, we are delivering access, and we've been doing it for a long time. We've been doing it with SSL VPN over many years with our legacy offering with FirePass. In the last couple of years, we've been delivering it through really one access solution offering called BIG-IP Access Policy Manager. As you can see here, it's really for all your different use cases. We have one opportunity for you, whether it's remote access and the various different types of access as you see there. Anytime you see a little red box, that is available in our latest version, version 11. But also, not only can we support SSL VPN or VPN in general, but also web access. Maybe you're trying to proxy those HTTP apps, and you want to just provide good web access management for internet applications, or it could be just application access, those enterprise applications that you're wanting to proxy non-HTTP apps, Microsoft, Oracle, Citrix, that sort of thing. We really have a consolidated access, one access solution for you. And how that works is, as Peter's been talking about, the local traffic manager, the application delivery network that we provide, you can add services to BIG-IP. If you're a customer, you already probably are aware of this. If not, we have many different services that you can add. We see a lot of access being managed in various different locations. A lot of times they could be managed on application servers, sometimes in applications themselves. That doesn't scale very well. It's very ineffective and very costly to manage access and authentication in many different locations. We have been talking to the marketplace about consolidating that access to BIG-IP. In doing so, maybe there's a number of different areas where you're trying to manage access. Now you can consolidate it to BIG-IP. We notice when we talk to customers that have identity and access management suites, a number of those suites, the authentication is managed, sold by the identity and access management vendor, and an extra web access tier, a web gateway tier of servers that are actually managing that authentication, many times a number of them per application. Again, for instance, like Oracle, we work with them to easily offload that access control to BIG-IP. And so now you have availability to scale quite dramatically. Peter mentioned the performance in BIG-IP, as you might be well aware. We can scale dramatically, and now we can also manage and control hosted virtual desktops, the access to those. Maybe you have applications in the cloud and you're trying to consider how do I have access control in a centralized location. You can do that with Access Policy Manager and have a secure session. So one location for access control, and allows you to then provide that local and remote user access. You are delivering all the type of services that you would be with the prior solutions, but now you have the type of reporting, not only access control, but the logging and reporting to be able to tell who's on, where are they going. Boy, I have a disaster recovery issue. I need to scale to twice as many users. And so I need a plan for that. So you can do that through offloading access control to BIG-IP and reducing those costs and providing the consolidation. How that happens is with our access policy control. It's a policy enforcement point where you can easily design access control. As you can see here, not only you can see the benefits that we provide with having all different types of access located in one location, but you can design that in a very easy visual policy editor. You can do that for individual users, you can do it for group users, and it could be very simple flow, as you see here, where you're, as a full proxy with BIG-IP, you're managing the access L4 through L7 at BIG-IP speeds, where you're quickly managing via policy how they access. Maybe it's the first policy is that you want to review their antivirus. You want to make sure it's up to date before they go on to the next flow. Also, maybe you might want to review their firewall. So you're providing good endpoint inspection. The next one would be maybe you're trying to integrate to AAA servers, so Active Directory, LDAP, Radius. How do you authenticate them? So via policy, we can authenticate them, and then maybe they have access to the resource. Or it could be there might be other steps in the policy that you want to create. It's, as you can see here, a very granular way to control access, and truly, as you'll see in some future slides, provide single sign-on from one location. This is a much easier way to manage access and a very easy way to be able to show others, as need be, how you manage your access. Now, for version 11, we have been talking to the marketplace about increasing and supporting mobile and remote users. In doing so, we've added some adaptive compression technology that we've had in BIG-IP for a number of versions, and that technology allows us to optimize applications going to the BIG-IP Edge client. Some of you may be aware we have a client called BIG-IP Edge client that we can actually push to the end user. Instead of an IT department having to manage those clients locally on each device, we can push the client to the users. We can allow them to have either a full VPN access, or we also have a portal for just specific application access. So we can optimize applications to either of those. Also, we are able to support IPSec and site-to-site, so optimize those encrypted tunnels. You may be familiar with IPSec site-to-client, and that's not this case. This is the IPSec for site-to-site, and we're using that same technology that we refer to as iSessions in BIG-IP, where we can just really increase and securely optimize sessions. And again, it could be between Access Policy Manager on BIG-IPLTM, or it could be in this separate opportunity of BIG-IP Edge Gateway. It's a dedicated remote access device. We'll talk more about that in a few minutes. Again, we can place many different virtual editions in virtual environments or in the cloud. Now I'm going to hand it over to Peter, and he's going to talk about dynamic Webtops.
And so those iSession tunnels, Jonathan, allows companies to then build their own private corporate wide area network over the public internet and make sure that everything is secure, optimized, and beautiful. Oh, are we fighting over the slides? So this is what it looks like when a user logs in to either the BIG-IP Access Policy Manager or the BIG-IP Edge Gateway, which we're actually going to talk about in the next slide. And so we wanted to show you this so you can see in that bottom right image, there's applications and links and then network access. So when a user logs in, they're authenticated, they're hit a user store, and based on all that context, they're then offered up various applications and resources. And so this is kind of what I was talking about. So a contractor would log in during 9 to 5, and he would have all of these available. But because the policy says you only have network access, a layer 3 encrypted tunnel to the network from 9 to 5, if he logs in at 7 o'clock at night, again, he still is able to get in because he's a valid user. But for instance, maybe just the OWA and maybe another application, the RDP or maybe Citrix, is available to him. But that VPN connection is no longer available because of the context and because of the policy. During the day, he has it. At nighttime, he can still authenticate and get in, but that resource is now unavailable because it's outside the boundaries of the policy. There might be, some wonder about both the BIG-IP Access Policy Manager and the BIG-IP Edge Gateway, since they, in some ways, offer up some of the same type of features: SSL VPN, protecting with a reverse proxy, the visual policy editor. How I like to explain it is that the BIG-IP Access Policy Manager is a module for BIG-IPLTM. And so being able to just add that piece to BIG-IPLTM, if you already have it in place, then gets you all the various features that we previously talked about and will talk about. Now, if it's something that you're looking for a standalone device, that would then be the BIG-IP Edge Gateway. So that's the standalone device with the policy, with the SSL VPN, portal access, application tunnels, et cetera, et cetera. The thing that Edge Gateway adds, though, is the web acceleration and the WAN optimization piece. And that's critical for remote users who might be in locations on high latency networks or on 3G mobile devices, being able to make sure that that content is delivered quickly down to the end user. So that's, sort of the primary difference between the two. One is a module for LTM with all of the features. Edge Gateway then is the standalone, but also includes the WAN up and the web acceleration. But they both, can handle up to 60,000 concurrent users and 600 logons per second and multi-gigabit throughput. And they both actually, you can see both of those solutions are included in the middle picture, APM and Edge Gateway, integrate with your current AAA infrastructure. And we kind of, not that we don't care, but whatever you got on the back end, Active Directory, LDAP, Radius, Kerberos, Secure ID Native, and various other ways to authenticate users. It'll integrate right into your authentication or AAA infrastructure, if you will. So there's really not much that you really need to do when deploying one of these devices within your infrastructure to then ensure that, I just want to make sure that everybody gets authenticated along the way. Well, we'll integrate with whatever you got going on. And you can see also on the back end things like Oracle Access Manager and Kerberos, and we support all that and actually have a nice integration with Oracle for OAM to handle some of that authentication pieces, so that with Oracle you don't have to add that proxy tier as I was talking about. You don't have to put agents on all the servers and make sure that they're updated every couple of months. You don't have to add that proxy tier. Did I say proxy tier? I might have. To the infrastructure, to then be able to manage your application access. Tell us a little bit about reporting, Jonathan. Jonathan?
Sorry, apologies for the slides not loading correctly. So we have very new detailed reporting, and I'll just let that reporting come up. So basically, we can design the reporting, those built-in reports for maybe the different types of sessions. Maybe you want to find out what type of operating system or browsers are currently on your network and have a report for that. So you can do current sessions. You can also design custom reports. As you can see, there's many different fields on the left that you can select and then have that report run whenever you would like it, send it to whoever you want to on a regular basis, save it, export it. There's many different ways that you can access this new detailed reporting, and we think it would be very valuable for you as you're trying to manage your access. Also, all of the BIG-IP solutions for version 11 have new analytics. They're executive level reporting. It's the type of reporting that in BIG-IP, especially for application delivery, you would expect to see reporting on latency and throughput. But also that reporting works really well with access control because it provides access on or stats related to user sessions and client IPs, client geographic. So you have there the availability for very specific but yet very easily viewable graphical reporting so that you can go in a little bit deeper and understand and review capacity planning, looking at whether you have certain places that are providing you trouble and you're trying to do troubleshooting to manage that access better, geolocation type of reporting as well. So we think that's very valuable for you as you're trying to manage your access control.
And all the way back to the user, a lot of solutions will just give you metrics on your applications and your infrastructure. We certainly believe it's also important to understand the user experience and how that application gets delivered all the way down to the client. So even you can see on there client-side latency, really understanding the user experience in addition to figuring out or at least getting a sense of how your data center, how your infrastructure, how all of your systems are working.
Also, we've been providing access control and supporting access control lists for the last number of versions with Access Policy Manager. We can do that in supporting, maybe you want to provide a specific page or a section of your website to have access to those users, but you want to control that access. Maybe you just want to have them provide a username and password, or maybe an email and a password. And once they provide that information, you can have an access control list in the background as a template taking that information, and then every time as they come back to the site, they'll have a specific policy created just for them. Maybe it's a situation where they've come to the site and they've paid for specific information, and they've done that, and so you want to provide an authentication page for a specific HTTPS section of your site for those subscribers. We can provide that in an access control list. As well, maybe there's some external access control list that you've already created elsewhere, and you want to be able to pull those dynamic external ACLs in and manage them within Access Policy Manager. We allow you that opportunity in version 11. And then finally, we talked about it before, but controlling access to those endpoints. We have very strong endpoint security. It's becoming, it has been important for a long time for those VPN solutions, but still, especially lately, we want to be able to control the access by first making sure that that endpoint is secure before we allow access. There's certain situations where maybe you don't want to provide full VPN access. You want to just provide a protected workspace. We can easily do that. There may be a situation, we hear it all the time, where a lot of files and information and data gets stolen via USB sticks. You can easily restrict files from leaving a protected workspace and going that direction. Also, we have a cleaner as well. It cleans up afterwards with no trace, so the cache isn't still sitting there. So there's a number of different endpoint inspection and endpoint security benefits that we provide.
Now, and the cool thing about that, right, is the fact that we all kind of, or maybe we're not aware, but many of us are aware of when you connect to SSL VPN, it does things like host check. So do I have my antivirus running? Do I have a firewall on, et cetera, and that's for remote access and a VPN connection. But, even in this scenario, APM with LTM, you can just do it on web-facing properties. I've, been asking for a couple of years now. We start conversations with, wouldn't it be cool if? And wouldn't it be cool if, before I even go to my banking site, and it's just a public website, there's a quick little thing that runs that says, you need antivirus or a firewall. There's some security policy that needs to be met before you're allowed to log on to our banking site. It's kind of getting that security mindset into the regular end users. And so it's not just for remote access anymore. It's also just for any public-facing web property.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Very good point, Peter. Now, I talked about the BIG-IP Edge client before. We have a very unique client that we can push to an endpoint, and that client, once on that endpoint, can be used to auto-connect wherever that user is, as long as the domain credentials are provided or input into the Edge client, as well as VPN credentials. So, for instance, before this example, a user would have to log in not only to say the Wi-Fi, but they'd also have to log into their VPN at every location, no matter where they were going or whether they were trying to access their information. With the Edge client, now you have auto-connect capabilities, your choice to make that available to your end users, where they can automatically connect at home, automatically connect on the way to work. Maybe they're in a presentation in a conference room. In fact, one of our VPs, when we initially started going out with the Edge client a year ago, easily was able to present in one conference room, leave that conference room. He went to another building, reconnected in that conference room, and then finally was able to continue with that same presentation. As well, a user could go back to their office. The client connection would be torn down, and they'd have a docked LAN connection. So as you can see, it's a very fast way for us to be able to provide Edge client and end client support for those users as they're trying to migrate through the many different mobile and remote access points. We do that, again, with a BIG-IP Edge client. As you can see, it's either a standalone client or web-delivered. We can easily provide it and support of many different operating systems as well as mobile devices. It provides all the same type of endpoint inspection and policy review for those clients before they gain access. It really provides a nice way to increase productivity for those end users instead of having them constantly log in wherever they go. There's some very unique access acceleration techniques that we provide. I talked about adaptive compression before, but also it provides client-side cache and client-side quality of service. The quality of service, for example, could be you could design a specific application like voice over IP to be sent first, so application priority, and then other content and data being sent after that. So somebody would be presenting at home and having the Edge client, and they wouldn't have that chirping sound, or they wouldn't have the delay because they'd have quality of service in place. Also, some very nice reporting on the client. I have my client on my laptop. I have it on various different mobile devices, and I can easily look at some of the reporting, as well as the bottom left-hand corner. If you see the change server there, anywhere where I go and travel, I can connect to a local server at a local data center where F5 allows me to connect. And then I can then access my content through that local data center as opposed to having to go back to the home office data center. It's a much faster way to access my applications and my information. Now, of course, we can support through not only BIG-IP Edge client, but I talked about the Edge portal. It's an application access portal. You can easily design it. It comes up on the application iOS Apple Store that you can easily look for the Edge portal and download it just like the Edge client, and quickly configure not only connection but also with user information and authentication information access internal sites like SharePoints, for instance. A lot of customers we have talked to, as well as some prospects, have really liked the fact that we support client access on the iPad. We understand that a number of you are trying to support requests, especially executive requests, to support access to files and folders and applications for those executives with their new iPads. We provide that with the BIG-IP Edge Gateway, and we're very excited to be able to provide that. It's the same technology that we have provided on the iPhone, so all iOS devices. So not only can we provide that mobile client technology with iOS, but also there are other devices, as you can see, that we can provide it for. Most recently, we've been able to support access with the Android device. And again, that's not only Edge Portal, as you can see here on the screen, but also the Edge client device on Android devices. You go up on the Android store to be able to find that and be able to select that. Once, of course, you have either Access Policy Manager on LTM or BIG-IP Edge Gateway. One good thing to note is that the client comes with either of those solutions free. We don't charge extra for that, so it's just a feature available for those. Again, easily allowing you to provide that client and mobile access. As you can see here, we're very happy to continue to support Android devices with both the portal and the client, and easily you can design, just like you could on Apple mobile devices, you can easily design application access. This is a very helpful way to support your end users. Many times when I talk to customers, and it could be like at a trade show, for instance, we were at a security event last week, I'll take my iPhone or my iPad, or we'll be a Samsung, and we'll show them exactly how we can quickly access our files and folders and applications available to us, and right there in the booth. And so that it's a very powerful way to get up and running for your end users. Now I'm going to hand it over to Peter. He's going to talk about driving exchange migration with BIG-IP.
Yeah, just a couple quick use cases here. We understand that a lot of people are going through Exchange 2010 migration or even upgrading from 07 to 10, and there can certainly be challenges with Exchange migrations, like might be some users on the old system, some on the new. Things like OWA, you might have to update or change the URL, which means users have to change their bookmarks or update their bookmarks. Users may have to update the server settings, the client server settings within Outlook themselves, just to make sure that they're pointing to the right server. You know, your calendar might not be available. You might not be able to reply to messages. So all of these things can throw a monkey wrench into an Exchange migration. And with BIG-IP Access Policy Manager as part of the migration, a lot of that mess goes away. So it'll help authenticate users in the DMZ so there's no unknown users behind the firewall. You can offer up a single URL for access. So whether it be OWA, ActiveSync, Outlook Anywhere, just a single URL to the users that never changes. It's always the same. And it doesn't even matter if they're from one group or another group, depending upon how you then deliver resources. It's that intelligence will say, oh, this guy is from that group. He goes to this location. And so single URL, manage access for all of your users out there, and also ensure that it's a smooth migration. This stuff doesn't, it's not one of the maintenance windows from 1 to 3 in the morning. This may occur over a number of, maybe weeks or months. And so it really helps with that particular type of migration. And of course, I've said it a couple of times, scaling to 60,000 users, and that in a lot of organizations that'll easily cover their worldwide deployment. Even enabling hosted virtual desktops. So being able to load balance those desktops, on the back end. The user might be on a particular server, that server's having issues, and being able to seamlessly move them to the next user. There is sometimes, especially say with VMware and their PCOIP solution, that stuff sometimes doesn't travel well over SSL VPN because it's a UDP protocol, and most SSL VPNs will make those connection established with TCP. BIG-IPAPM and Edge Gateway, by the way, also offers a DTLS mode, so datagram transport layer security. It's basically securing the UDP protocol as it's being delivered from the back-end system to the end users, and so even that gets delivered seamlessly and optimized to the end user. So even these VDI deployments can become a lot easier to manage, a lot better for the end user experience, and then going back to all that reporting, you then get insight as to what the users are accessing, how well is the system performing, and the infrastructure, and all those other metrics needed to then make those intelligent decisions for continued growth and availability. Why don't you take this thing into the station, Jonathan?
Okay, Peter. So as you can see here, we have a myriad of platform solutions, and whether you're choosing Access Policy Manager as an add-on module, you can see there it comes with a base set of concurrent users. It will provide you with access sessions all the way up to the max provided, which you'll see on the next slide. Or if you want concurrent users, as you can see here, there's availability for specific max concurrent users. If you're looking for a dedicated device in the DMZ for remote access, we highly recommend BIG-IP Edge Gateway, especially not only for the access policy that you saw here. We have some very unique acceleration and WAN optimization technology that comes with that device. That's how, in both scenarios, we can support so many users and scale for one device. Just think of all the different SSL, VPN, or remote access solutions. You really can't get beyond about 10,000, maybe 15,000 users max before you have to start doing multiple devices, clustering. There's a lot that goes into that. Because of our technology, full proxy, BIG-IP, high performance, and we can easily scale for one device. So it's a much simpler way to manage access control. And then, as you can see here, Peter alluded a little bit to the performance, but for each different type of access, we provide very high performance. A couple things to note here. We are supporting, and think of this, of all the different SSL, VPN, or just remote access solutions, or even access solutions, how many logins per second? Peter alluded to it earlier. Normally it's up to about 50 logins per second. Again, because we're using high-performance BIG-IP, we can support up to 600 logins per second, as well as support quite high forwarding performance. And also, you're selecting a platform that can be layered with a number of different solutions: acceleration, optimization, application security, highly recommended for accessing those applications to have that security in place. So with BIG-IP Access Policy Manager, we enable unified access and control no matter what platform you're choosing. We do that by providing context for those various different users, and so you can manage access based on identity. We're unifying all the different types of access that you would need to have and control in one location. We're supporting not only fast authentication, but delivering single sign-on for all the various different authentication technologies, again, in one location. We've got very powerful custom and built-in reporting that we highly recommend and are happy to support you with. And then finally, high-level, well, really detailed analytics that provide very executive reporting for you to make very valuable and concerted decisions. There's a lot of different resources that we have up on f5.com, so we just want to make sure you're aware there's some specific training that's up on F5 University. That web-based training provides not only basic BIG-IPLTM, but some of our other different technologies as well. You know, if you need an architectural review, we're happy to provide that, or maybe you want to do a proof of concept in our International Technology Center. We're happy to set that up for you. We can refer you to a local person, or just contact F5, and we'd be happy to help you. There's a number of different ways that you can participate. For instance, you can contribute to F5 Dev Central. It's a location and an area where you as users can participate in the discussions on access control, how your peers are handling access control. So a lot of different ways to access and just be able to deliver the type of resources to you that we think are be very valuable. Finally, what's next? Well, attacks are in the news every day. We see them so much. And so we're going to come and talk to you about dynamic attack protection with BIG-IP solutions. Again, for more information, not only on access control, but as well as attack protection, you can go up on f5.com, solutions and security. And we'd be happy to take your calls, both Peter and I, either via phone or online chat.
I think we'd like to open it up for questions, if possible.
You wanted to take questions from the phone line, sir?
Yes, please, if there are any.
So if you would like to ask a question, please press *1 on your touch-tone phone. Please unmute your phone and record your name when prompted so I may introduce you prior to your question. Once again, *1 if you would like to ask a question. One moment, please, for our first question. Matthew McFarland, your line is open.
Hi. Yeah, I was wondering if there's a way I can get is there a way we can get a copy of the presentation, because for some reason my meetings is having some kind of technical difficulty and I wasn't able to get into the live meeting at all to see this. So I've been listening on the phone the whole time, but I wasn't able to get into the meeting at all.
No, it's okay. This presentation has been recorded, and we'll make that available to all the attendees.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Todd Bowen, your line is open.
I just had the same question as the last caller. I could not get into the video at all, so I'd like also like a copy of the PowerPoint if you have it.
Okay.
Yes, great. We'll make that available via recording.
Patrick Zatorsky, your line is open.
Yes, I typed in a question in the Q&A board on the Edge client. It was touted for Connect Anywhere capability. I was just wondering how the where and how the access and/or authentication credentials are stored. For example, if you needed to go to a VPN, your company VPN, using the Edge F5 Edge client on your mobile device.
Yeah, ultimately the credentials will be stored where they are currently just, stored. So if you have an Active Directory infrastructure and that's how you usually authenticate your users, within the configuration of either Access Policy Manager or Edge Gateway, you would just tell BIG-IP which Active Directory server, LDAP server, Radius server, whatever, which of those do we point to make sure that this person is an authenticated user.
Oh, so when you go on your device, you wouldn't, I don't know, click on an icon for a particular connection type that you're trying to establish?
Oh, so you're speaking from the user standpoint then?
Yes, please.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You could certainly just click on the Edge client, and then as the Edge client pops up, it would ask for your username and password.
Okay.
And then that obviously gets transversed through the BIG-IP to the user store, then back to the BIG-IP, letting it know whether you're valid or not, and then based on that result, you get in with, some, all, or minimal access.
Thank you.
Yep. And they can say, you can save if the administrator wants to save your credentials, you can do that. All those sorts of things are pretty easy to accomplish.
And for single sign-on, you'll have the availability to issue a certificate, and so that certificate would then reside on the device. Yep. Edge client would access that certificate, so that every time they re-access, then they could do it without having to use their username and password.
Sweet.
Dave Senna, you may ask your question.
Yes, this is Dave. We were looking at the Application Security Manager, the ASM module for web security. So is the Application Policy Manager similar to that, same product you're bundling into version 11, or does it remain to be different? That's my first question. And my second question was, where can I get more information on the endpoint protection you had mentioned earlier, where the client doesn't need to be a VPN user, just a regular person using our HTTP unauthenticated website? And you gave the example of a banking website where we would like to check certain criteria before even allowing them to come to our website.
Yeah, sure.
So I was interested in that information also from a web security perspective. I work with web security.
Gotcha. So ASM would be your, full-on Layer 7 web application firewall, protecting against the OWASP top 10 and, so, things like SQL injections and cross-site scripts and forceful browsing.
Right. We're looking at it for CSRF and unvalidated URL redirects.
Yeah, that type of stuff, where Access Policy Manager, think of it more as access security can mean, various things. Is it securing the user access to our resources, or is it, protecting our web properties from malicious users? So APM, as opposed to ASM, would be more that authenticate, the AAA infrastructure, authenticating users, ensuring that those hosts are secure before allowing access, where ASM would be, like I said, more the protecting the web application from people trying to break in, hack in, from those layer 7 type methods via the browser.
Uh-huh.
And as far as the documentation and such for the endpoint protection and the portal, the edge portal, edge client, all that stuff should easily be found on f5.com. There's also a section under resources, I believe, Jonathan. There's a whole, we have probably close to 100 white papers covering.
I'll find it. If it's on the web, I'll find it. No worries.
Okay.
Do you have time for a real quick question? One more.
Sure.
Okay. You mentioned that we could do a proof of concept in partnership with you. We're currently engaged in a proof of concept for unvalidated URL redirects for the ASM. Would you be able to help us with that too? We're doing one internally. We already are clients, big clients.
Yeah, I don't see why not.
Who do I contact for that? I'm with WellPoint.
Probably your local sales team.
Got it. I have the person. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
That's all I had. Thank you.
We love that stuff.
Dave Sipes, your line is open.
Yes, I'd like to know what for the APM on version 11, what is the upgrade path, or is it going to be available for the 6800s and the 8800s?
Jonathan, you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. So unfortunately, it only is available on our latest platforms, so that would be 1600, 3600, 3900. So in the 6000 series, it would be the 6900 and the 8900. Apologies for that. We don't make it available, or we haven't made it available for the 6400 or 6800s. So you'd have to move to a newer platform. That's because in order to gain the kind of performance that we're able to provide, we need that latest platform with the high performance in it.
Okay.
Paul Chapello, you may ask your question.
Hi, yeah, we were wondering if the BIG-IP Edge Gateway is a requirement for remote access, or can we just use the APMs with LTMs and firewall rules to pretty much do the same thing?
That's a really good question. Someone else online on our chat asked that too, so I'm not sure if you're the same person, but I'll answer both of them at the same time. So it matters what use case you have. So say, for instance, you're doing a large deployment, application deployment, and you want to provide remote access for that. Great scenario for adding Access Policy Manager on LTM. It may be a scenario where some of those users you want to provide full VPN access as well. You can provide that with APM. You can provide more of those VPN concurrent user connections on APM. It's just that that device is also trying to manage via LTM those applications that it's controlling behind it. So if you really want to support high levels of users as well as take advantage of some unique technology along with it, with acceleration and optimization, and it happens to be that you want to place that with a use case in the DMZ to support a lot of users from many different locations, we would recommend BIG-IP Edge Gateway. So that Access Policy Manager lives inside BIG-IP Edge Gateway, but Edge Gateway has access to other acceleration techniques.
Okay, where would that breakpoint be? 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 users? Any idea?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It really is based on use case. For instance, if you're trying to support 10,000 users with full VPN access, you would get better performance with BIG-IP Edge Gateway. If you're trying to support 5,000 users with access to a number of different applications, and maybe there's another 5,000 or maybe 2,500 users that you want to support with Access Policy Manager, we can do that. Just be aware that you'll get probably higher performance of the BIG-IP Edge Gateway in a dedicated device. Either way, we recommend that you talk to a sales rep as well as have an engineer come in and kind of walk through the different use case scenarios to help you understand where you're going to get that better performance.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from Mark Hawkins. Your line is open.
Yes, I had typed this into the Q&A as well. Was curious whether there's a dedicated Linux Edge client now, like there is for Windows and Mac OS X and iOS.
It's supported on Linux, right, Jonathan?
Yeah. So you can access with the client that can be downloaded on an iOS device or an Android device. You can use the web-delivered browser version of that client using Linux.
Okay, so there's not a dedicated Linux client, downloadable client yet. Okay, that's what I was looking for.
Yeah. Right now, the client is easily downloadable with Apple devices as well as Android devices.
Is there a plan to come out with one for Linux?
We're looking at that option, and we'll see where we can support that in the future.
Okay.
Neil Lahoulier, your line is open.
Yeah, I just have a question regarding the Edge client or Edge gateway in a teleworker situation. Is it possible with these two products or either of these products to have, you know, multiple VPN sessions going to different gateways to allow for redundancy?
So you authenticate, yeah. I mean, and just for the explanation. So you say you authenticate to boston.edge.com, and you also then try to log on to sanjose.edge.com.
Right. You have two established tunnels. You parse the traffic over one tunnel, and the other tunnel's backup, right?
Actually, yeah. Once you establish a connection to one of the, to the BIG-IP Edge Gateway appliance or the APM, that's your authenticated, validated session. So I wouldn't then necessarily be able to then try to authenticate. I could probably go to my browser and authenticate to dallas.edge.com and maybe see what the portal has. But then if I try to establish a network connection, a VPN tunnel, it would probably say, are you sure you want to connect here, and drop your other connection.
Okay. And in a teleworker situation where you have voice traffic going over along with data traffic and all that, the gateway product is probably the way to go, or would the APM product on the LTM work as well?
It certainly would work. There's no question about its ability to accomplish the task. Again, the WAN, the TCP optimization, the web acceleration, those other pieces that are added to Edge Gateway may be better suited for a voice over IP deployment if it's a significant deployment. But then also add to that, the DTLS settings. So you could essentially say, I want the voice over IP traffic to be handled by DTLS, and that would then also alleviate some of the challenges with it going over TCP and the VPN tunnel.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Patrick Maroney, your line is open.
This question regarding Kerberos in version 11, is it fully supported, and the specific use case would be Server 2008 and SharePoint 2010 environments?
We do all the ticketing, Jonathan, so
yes,
that shouldn't be a problem.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Are there any application guides available for that?
I believe we do have a recent white paper
yes.
On there off the f5.com. Specific to Kerberos.
That's right.
Thank you.
Sure.
And so I'm going to ask a few chat ones. Steve asked a question where he's got an 8900 LTM with APM and Web Accelerator. He has the VPN working from the web browser, but hasn't been able to authenticate using iPhone Edge Client. You asked if is there a white paper. There actually is. In fact, there's a deployment guide for BIG-IP Edge Gateway that will guide you through how to specifically configure the iPhone Edge Client or the iOS Edge Client. If you have more troubles or any issues, you're under maintenance support, feel free to give our support a call, and they can walk you through that.
So yeah, that's fun.
Steve Janeski, your line is open for your question.
He just kind of answered my question. So I'll ask something different. If I got a 6900 that doesn't have the APM on it, right, and it's running 10.1, but I'm under support contract still on it, I can upgrade that to version 11 and put APM on it and use it as an edge device, correct?
Yeah, I don't see why not.
Yeah, 6900, 10.1 valid contract. That should be. I think that should be fine.
Okay, and the second thing is, if I wanted to use it, like right now, I've got a couple of ISA 2006 servers that are doing the krill check and the KCD on the back end as some exchange servers for OA. If I wanted to instead do that on the F5, I know with version 10.1, 10.2, you had to have special I rules, and I got the Kevin Stewart's paper on that. But my sales engineer was telling me that in version 11, it's really, really a lot simpler, and it's all integrated. But I haven't had a chance to play with it yet. Is it just pretty intuitive, or is there another paper on that now that it changes to version 11 on how to do the KCD on the back end?
Let me answer the question. Yes, it is a heck of a lot easier. We've built in a lot of what used to be I rules, just built into the base code to make it function the way that the I rules were. I thought I saw, Jonathan, correct me, not only that Kerberos white paper we were speaking of, but also the deployment guides for that, for all the KDC and OWA and what have you.
Yeah, if there's a deployment guide, I can go ahead
I'm fairly certain there is.
on f5.com.
Yeah. And a good point to note, maybe some of those customers that have been on the line have had our ACA module, Advanced Client Authentication, where they use that potentially for Kerberos or TACUS Plus, that sort of thing. There's a lot of those all those technologies have been brought over to Access Policy Manager now. So they're all available, and they are much simpler to configure.
Now, if you have an ACA module that's active, a production license for an ACA module, and that's what you've been doing for your certificate curl checks and stuff with the OCSP responders and configurations?
We recommend that you talk to your sales engineer to actually give them that use case so they can either guide you to continue or potentially talk to you about APM and a simpler way to manage that.
If you wanted to do an APM, would you get a price break on it since you already had the license for the ACA and APM didn't used to be available and now it's rolled into that?
Yeah, good question. Again, you're going to have to talk to your local salesperson for that.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Yeah, I know it sounds kind of, but yeah, a lot of times those kind of offerings, deals, and such are within sales domain. So I couldn't necessarily say, oh yeah, you'll get a.
Probably wrong forum for it. I apologize.
No worries.
As a reminder, if you would like to ask a question, please press *1.
So Jose asked, hello, the performance numbers for the appliances are standalone units or v11 running active-active scenario? Yeah, those performance numbers are for standalone units. So as you can imagine, when you add multiple units, you can support more users. Or you could do it in a disaster recovery scenario, for instance.
And I am showing no further questions from the phone lines.
Wow, an active group. That was great.
Yes. Jerome asked, I'm wondering if there's a plan to have a client for the BlackBerry smartphone. That's a very good question. I'm not aware of one at this time, but through your sales personnel, you can actually request that as a client request.
And BlackBerries are supported, just through the browser. You can still log on. I've logged on through my BlackBerry, and then depending on what's supported within the browser of the BlackBerry, you can still gain access to those resources via BlackBerry.
Sure.
Yep.
So web deliver client. final chat questions that I see. I'm trying to pass voice over IP traffic, SP, RTP, RTCP over SSL VPN from a Droid phone.
Are you having problems? Is there clipping? Is there?
And are you using the Edge client to do that, or are you using just another SSL VPN offering? Obviously, I referenced it before with client-side quality of service. If you're using the Edge client, you have the availability to specifically prioritize that voice over IP traffic to go first, and then the rest of the traffic later. And actually, that rest of the traffic won't squeeze into that VoIP traffic. You can actually separate it. So anyways, feel free to ask us either on chat or via phone if you want to clarify that question. Any other questions, either via phone or via chat? We're running over, so those that drop off, we understand, but we're happy to take any more questions.
Thanks for hanging with us.
And I'm showing no questions.
Cool.
Great. Well, again, if you have any further questions that may come up later on, feel free to contact your local rep. They'll get a hold of us if they can answer it. And we're very happy to provide and talk to you about how F5 manages and consolidates access control in one location and provide you unified access control with BIG-IP. Remember that in a couple of weeks we're going to have Peter and I on again are talking about dynamic attack protection, how you can protect your applications and your assets from all the latest threats that are out there today. Thank you again. We appreciate your time.
Yep. Thanks a lot. That was fun.
That does conclude today's conference. Thank you all for joining. You may disconnect your lines at this time.